If knowledge offers absolute freedom, what is the painful, devastating personal cost of acquiring it? That question, it really sits right at the heart of the book we're looking at today.
It's a deep one, a really challenging tension, especially when that knowledge, the stuff you fought so hard for, forces you to question, well, everything. Your family, your loyalty. It's almost a tragedy of becoming yourself.
Absolutely. And today, we're focusing on Tara Westover's memoir, Educated. Now, enjoy a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis.
Yeah, this is more than just a summary, though we don't include that too. This feature really digs into how Westover shapes her argument, how she builds influence, and crucially, how she earns, or maybe loses, your trust as a reader.
We're aiming to give you the tools to read with sharper insight and maybe greater discernment. Thinking about reading Educated, this should definitely help. It's also, I think, excellent for aspiring writers.
Definitely. And look, if you find this expanded format valuable, please let us know. Your feedback really helps guide what we do in the future.
So what you're experiencing here is a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM. The idea is to get deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
And our subject is Westover's work.
Hmm.
We're specifically looking at its, frankly, exceptional rhetorical mastery and that core tension, family loyalty versus intellectual truth.
Okay, so when you're analyzing a memoir, especially one like this describing a life so far outside the norm, the author's first job is trust, right? Building credibility, ethos.
Exactly. And Westover faces a pretty unique uphill battle here because, let's be honest, she's writing about circumstances many people might find hard to believe.
So how does she tackle that? You said she does it masterfully.
Well, she uses this kind of dual positioning.
Yeah.
She gives you two solid reasons to believe her.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you've got the institutional authority, the PhD from Cambridge University. That signals rigor, intelligence, research skills to the academic world.
Okay, the credentials.
Right. But that PhD alone isn't enough to make the personal story land, you see. That's where the second part of her ethos comes in, the authentic perspective.
The fact she actually lived it.
Precisely. She gives you firsthand experience with educational deprivation. She never went to school as a child. So she speaks from inside that isolation, but also later from the heights of academic achievement. It's a powerful combination.
What I find really fascinating, though, is the specific tactics she uses to boost that credibility, especially since memoir as a genre is always under scrutiny about, factual truth.
Ah, yes. Her commitment to intellectual honesty. It's key.
How does that play out?
Well, she doesn't pretend to have perfect recall.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, she openly acknowledges memory limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And this is crucial. She includes footnotes detailing conflicting family accounts.
Wait, she points out where her family remembers things differently.
She does. Think about that. She's proactively showing you, the reader, where her version of the truth bumps up against someone else's perspective within her own family.
But wouldn't that open her up to criticism? Like if she admits her memory isn't perfect or it conflicts,
Right.
doesn't that just invite people to say she's making stuff up where there isn't external proof?
You'd think so, but it's actually the brilliance of the move. By admitting the limitations up front, she grounds the whole narrative in a kind of analytical truth-seeking. It's not just, here's my emotional story.
It's more like, here's my attempt at reconstructing events.
Exactly. She's essentially saying, I'm trying my best to tell you the objective truth of my subjective experience, and here are the receipts, the footnotes, showing how hard I'm working to do that honestly. It elevates the book from just a story to an intellectually rigorous document.
Okay, so she's built that trust, that ethos. Now, she needs a structure to support her argument. Let's talk about the logical progression, the logos. How does the book's structure build her case for education?
It had to be systematic. The book constructs its argument about education's power through a very strict, almost clinical, chronological progression. This structure isn't just a timeline. It functions like a controlled experiment, proving her central idea.
A controlled experiment, how so?
Well, the structure demonstrates a really clear cause and effect relationship. Learning leads to personal agency. If she jumped around in time, that logical link-getting knowledge directly leads to freedom. It would have just fallen apart.
Ah, I see.
It's systematic. Step 1, lack of education equals control and manipulation. Step 2, seeking knowledge equals freedom and self-determination. The timeline proves the sequence.
So if we boil down the core purpose, which she's ultimately trying to persuade us of, it all comes back to that central conflict, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The primary rhetorical purpose is to demonstrate that knowledge is power and freedom.
Yeah.
and simultaneously to expose systematically how controlling information lets people manipulate and abuse others, especially within dysfunctional families.
So she's arguing that ignorance is actually a tool of oppression?
Yes, wielded by those in power. Whether that's a government or, in her case, her father figure, she's persuading you that lack of knowledge isn't just a passive state. It's actively used against people.
Okay, so she's built the logical framework, the proof. Now, how does she make us feel it? Feel the devastating reality of that proof. That's where pathos, emotional appeals come in, and the imagery. It's designed to be visceral.
It really has to be, to break through potential skepticism from the reader. The memoir leans heavily on vivid descriptions, both psychological manipulation and just the sheer physical chaos of her home. Our analysis picked out a particularly startling example about her father's burns.
Oh, that scene. Yeah, that's hard to forget.
It is. The description of her mother having to, quote, pry her father's ears from his skull using a butter knife, common household item. That detail doesn't just shock you.
No, it does more than that.
Right. It deeply supports her larger argument about the family's volatility, the dysfunction.
Yeah.
It creates this powerful, immediate emotional gut punch that makes you instinctively root for her to get out, to find that intellectual escape.
It connects the physical horror to the psychological environment. It forces you to grasp the brutality she needed to escape.
And that level of sophistication carries through to her diction, her specific word choices. She used the language itself to analyze the psychological damage she internalized. For example, think about how she describes puberty.
Right. She uses words like bloating, swelling, bulging, very negative terms.
Exactly. Why those words?
Yeah.
Because they're the language of disease, of deformity, not natural change. They show us, the reader, how her upbringing conditioned her to see natural physical development as shameful, even monstrous.
Her internal vocabulary was poisoned by the ideology.
Precisely. It reinforces the argument that her own body, like her mind, felt like a place of constraint, something wrong, not a source of growth or liberation.
That's such a powerful insight for anyone writing. Your word choice can instantly reveal a character's inner world without needing to spell it out.
Absolutely. And before we dive into narrative structure, just a quick reminder to check out Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel offering AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques. It's all designed to inspire reflection and rational thought.
Okay, let's turn now to the structure of the language itself, the syntax. This is where the book does something really clever, almost like literary self-portraiture.
It really is a masterclass. The way her sentence structure varies throughout the memoir is subtle, but it's a powerful technique mirroring her intellectual journey.
How so?
In the early chapters, reflecting her limited worldview, her lack of external language to describe things, she often uses simple, fragmented sentences. They're clipped, limited.
And then later, as she gets educated, as the book progresses through college and beyond.
Then you see a dramatic shift. As she gains education, intellectual sophistication, the later sections move to complex analytical sentences. They're longer, they have multiple clauses, they demonstrate the more sophisticated mental architecture she's built.
So the sentence structure itself performs the transformation?
Exactly. We don't just read about her growth, we actually experience it through the widening scope of her grammar. It's quite remarkable.
Wow. Charting cognitive development through sentence length, but she also uses bigger structural metaphors, right? To anchor the emotional side, to make sure we grasp the weight of the choices she's facing.
Yes, the power of repetition and metaphor is definitely crucial for building that emotional tether. The key metaphor is probably the personification of Buck's Peak Mountain. She calls it the Indian princess.
Why give the mountain a personality? And why that specific one?
Well, the mountain isn't just scenery. It represents the powerful, almost spiritual, maybe seductive pull of her origins. The Indian princess image suggests something ancient, powerful, deeply ingrained, a female force, maybe representing lineage, family loyalty that she has to actively resist, maybe even conquer to get free intellectually. It underscores how hard it is to leave.
And then on the other side, celebrating her new world, there's that strategic repetition. Our analysis highlighted how she uses BYU 3 times in the graduation chapter. Feels deliberate.
Oh, absolutely intentional. That repetition hammers home the university's role as the new foundation. BYU becomes the new anchor, the source of truth and identity, replacing the unstable, chaotic anchor of Buck's Peak she had to abandon. She's reinforcing the new cornerstone of her life.
So when you pull all these elements together, the ethos, logos, pathos, The structure, the entire chronological approach, seems built on constant juxtaposition.
Precisely. The structure lays out this clear path from ignorance to enlightenment, and that transformation is constantly thrown into relief by contrasting two worlds. Her family's deep isolation, steeped in fear and conspiracy, versus the wider, complex world of academia and intellectual curiosity.
That contrast shows the sheer scale of her journey. It wasn't just like walking across town to school.
No, it was like crossing an ocean between totally opposing realities. The juxtaposition highlights the magnitude of her transformation.
Which brings us to assessing the book's overall effectiveness. Did Westover pull it off? Did she achieve her purpose showing this transformation while maintaining ethical integrity?
I think yes, overwhelmingly so. She successfully shows education's power to transform, while being brutally honest about the cost, potentially sacrificing nearly all her family ties.
And crucially,
Crucially, as we discussed, she avoids sensationalism. By rigorously acknowledging memory issues and including those conflicting family accounts in the footnotes, she manages to be dramatic without being exploitative.
she relies on the intellectual analysis of the drama, not just the drama itself.
Exactly. And that sophisticated prose, the complex themes, they definitely resonate with educated readers. People who appreciate nuanced explorations of identity, freedom, critical thinking, they are clearly the target audience.
But wait, this raises a really critical paradox about the whole project, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Our analysis points this out. The very things that make the book so rhetorically successful, this sophisticated language, the intellectual honesty, the academic tone, might, ironically, make it less accessible to readers who come from backgrounds similar to Westover's own family.
So, she writes about the marginalized, but the style of writing might primarily appeal to those already educated. That's the ultimate painful tension, embedded right in the work itself.
A powerful observation. It leaves us with a heavy question. Is education truly liberation, or is it sometimes just a radical, incredibly painful act of alienation?
Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary. Subscribe, share, purchase via the link, and please think rationally.
And see the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.